Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Raj Sinha, and I'm one of the co-founders and director of Marine Solutions. I belong to Merchant Navy, and then the first thing we started was Marine Solutions, which was a company giving consultancy and other things to the shipping companies. And then in 2014, we diverged into offshore terminals. As of now, we deal with offshore terminals for oil. We deal with offshore terminals for gas. And as of now, we are into the port development. And in true sense, we have started calling ourselves that we are offshore energy transfer terminals or transfer partners. Now, the parent company was established in the year 2009. Master mariners were at the helm, and then we have delivered small components, spares, telemetry units, and the other things, and we have delivered mega projects as well to IOCL. The sectors that we serve is navigational buoys and mooring buoys in port, lighthouses, raccoons, lights, SPM installation, and ancillaries. We do the cross-country pipeline as well. We have done tank farms, and we do LNG transfer systems, be it ship to ship or be it ship to shore. Like, I would say that right from the very beginning, it was the development of the countries were actually involved when the energy needs or the energy consumption of the countries started growing. If we look at the Industrial Revolution in the past, we know one thing for sure, that it was the energy from the coal which was actually deriving the economy of that country. And then we will always find that there will be one country which will be having more of one energy component, probably oil, probably gas or anything. And there will be few companies which will be energy deficient, and there will always be a trade. Now, when coal shaped up that energy revolution, the menace of coal or the carbon at that point of time probably was not well known. So we kept on pushing carbon emissions to the environment. And the developed countries started getting the advantage of it. Slowly they realized that it's not a healthy thing to do. And what they did is, instead of putting it all across to develop a greener alternative, the first shift came that let's shift it to a third world country and we reap the rewards. That's how the third world countries started having some kind of industrialization or industrial revolution in the third world countries or the poorer countries, be it the Asian ones or be it something else. If you look at the chart, initially the Europe was actually the factory place, and then as on today, China has become the factory place for the entire world. Probably with the impetus of our government, we are destined to grow into a big economy, large economy. We have consumers, and we'll be having the factories as well. Now, in this perspective, when this carbon menace started developing, then the people started thinking about, how to get into the greener aspect of it. The idea was to remove as much carbon atoms from the fuel or the energy as possible. Now, very recently, if you look at the world economic scenario, you will find that LNG is taking a prominence. The idea is LNG is the only molecule which has got just one carbon and 4 atoms of hydrogen. If we look at the complex carbon chains, we will find that the ratio of carbon atom vis-a-vis hydrogen atom is actually more and is predominated by the carbon molecule rather than the hydrogen molecule. And that's how this LNG is considered as a greener fuel alternative rather than the complex hydrocarbon, be it petrol, be it diesel, or be it other elements. There are certain stats. Hydrogen is only 0.14% by mass, 10th most abundant metal, and its percentage of hydrogen in water is 11%, and percentage of hydrogen in ammonia is 18%. Now, this is the basic or the premise of me advocating to have a stopgap with ammonia rather than going directly with the hydrogen. Although probably I'm not sure, like this is uh, actually too visible to you or not. But then if you look at the mass energy density of hydrogen, which is 120 megajoule as compared to 18.6 megajoule of ammonia. The game changer is when we are able to crack this ammonia and derive a good amount of hydrogen out of it, which is more than what if we crack the water itself and derive the hydrogen out of it. So this if you look at it, the ammonia crackers or the fuel cells or the hydrogen engines, I'll give you these are the certain characteristics of ammonia. I'll forward the slide, and then this is the potential growth that we see. And if you look at the graph, ammonia is not a very new fuel that has come into the market, and then people have started talking about it. It was there predominant way back in 1947, 1948, and it has a steady kind of thing. This is what has been recorded, and this is what is projected. Of course, like the projected has to come probably at one point of time, whether the energy component of it or the probably the industry actually looks at it into a viable thing. I was going through the previous presentations, and then there were certain elements of it which was there, like when people were talking about how do we consume hydrogen, or how do we consume a fuel into the internal combustion engines or into mega projects or whatever. Here is a comparison between ammonia, diesel, LPG, and hydrogen, and I think one of the panelists was actually looking into the two aspects of it. One was the auto ignition temperature, and the other very common element of it is the flame speed. If you look at the ammonia, it has got the lowest flame speed, which means we can actually utilize into the internal combustion engine in a better way than what diesel or LPG or hydrogen can be utilized. Of course, like its auto ignition temperature is more, so we will need to have a spark plug or something of that sort. Probably the compression ratio, which is in diesel internal combustion engine, is close to 1:18 to 1:20, and in petrol engines it is 1:9 to 1:10. The compression ratio probably for this ammonia will have to go a little lower, probably having a compression ratio of probably 1:6 or 1:7 or something of that sort. But then yes, I'm pretty sure that ammonia can actually be thought about as an alternative fuel. It has got no carbon element. The only menace that people can think of is that what will happen with the NOx or the nitrogen oxides which will be emanated out of it. The world as on today has actually been able to tame nitrous oxide gases in a far better way than what we have been able to control the carbon dioxide or probably the other greenhouse gases that we talk about. And when we have this kind of gathering and we advocate or we try to put an impetus on a cleaner or probably lesser carbon atoms in the environment, probably the world has learned about it. Ammonia, the only aspect of ammonia which probably might not be good is it's very poisonous and alkaline as well. But then I would like to share you a story which was there in the London newspaper way back when the internal combustion engines were there, and then the cars started rolling out. There were many people who were advocating that putting a 40 liter of gasoline is like carrying a bomb into your car. Anything happens, probably, it will be a catastrophe. And today, I'm sure every household has at least one two-wheeler which will have close to around 10 liters of petrol, or probably one four-wheeler which will be having around 40 to 60 liters of petrol. So the world has actually learned how to tame that, how to move away from it, and similarly, I'm sure with the developing technology, people will actually learn about how to tackle the menace of the poisonous aspects of ammonia as well. Transferring of ammonia has actually been taking place. There have been few instances. There are few terminals in the world where large-scale ammonia transfer takes place. Now, as I had said earlier, the ammonia probably, or any kind of energy, there will be one country which will be having too much of loads of energy, and the other country which will actually be buying out of it. Transportation by sea has always been the cheapest method to transport, and ammonia has been utilized, or if you look at the previous slides, you will find that it has got very similar properties as compared to LPG. There are quite a lot of LPG ships around the world, and then probably same can be transported by sea into large ammonia carriers or something like that. The ammonia carriers can be, taken up in this way at a jetty or probably at a convoy or at a CBM using marine hoses. Now, to my knowledge, there are 2 or 3 ammonia terminals which are operating around the world. Over here, the rules are still gray because it's developing, it's evolving. The Gas Tanker Association, SIGTO, and the others, they are still coming up with certain rules as far as safety is concerned, and probably there will be further revisions as we play around with it. This is a convoy which can actually handle a tanker worth probably 300,000 tons of fuel, liquid fuel. Now, this can actually be utilized for holding ammonia as well. The only challenge we will face is probably, like a better leak-proof system, a better spill-proof system, which probably, and then we'll have to cool down the pipelines if at all, like one tanker comes in and then the other tanker takes probably few days to come in. The lines will become hotter probably because these ammonia carriers will be transporting ammonia at a temperature of, say, minus 40 degrees Celsius or something like that. But minus 40 degrees Celsius is still a manageable thing when we talk about LNGs, where it is shipped across at minus 160 degrees Celsius. And when we talk about liquid hydrogen, which will be the prima facie mode of transport, if at all tomorrow, we start going into hydrogen trading, some countries producing hydrogen and the other countries utilizing that, will be looking at a temperature of close to minus 260 degrees Celsius or something like that, which probably, like is more difficult than to maintain a temperature of minus 40 degrees Celsius, vis-a-vis probably LNG of, like minus 160 degrees Celsius or something like that. This is a bit on the other kind of system where, like we'll start cooling off the lines, and once the lines are cooled off, probably we will start loading the ammonia at this. Now the challenges for ammonias are the gas permeation, zero leak civil design, or the zero leak manifold connections, because the only menace ammonia faces is probably the poisonous aspect of it. Once we are having, a better thing to do that, probably the surge protection and other things will take into account. I'll pass through these slides. Probably I have got a little less time. It's showing that, I've got another 1 minute to say. And this is probably too technical towards the SPM system rather than with the ammonia itself. So I'll pass through this. And now this is what I would say, that offshore SPM ammonia terminals are possible, and these are the challenges that we face as of now. Now, to sum it up, like I would say that, with the transport coming in, we started with the walking, and then then the probably wheels came in, and then the cycles, and then motorcycles, and the other things came in. We are looking at a future when probably we'll be having teleportation as well. We never know. It might be a far-fetched thought, but yes, it's a thought as on today, and tomorrow, I'm sure I might probably, if the technology advances so fast, I might be able to see myself. I'm not that old. Probably I'll live those many years longer than then, you know. But as on today, we think about teleportation, and we still are firing rockets to go to moon, probably make moon habitable or make Mars habitable. We are not stopping ourselves from, that agenda. Similarly, when we look at hydrogen, probably it will be a fuel for the future. But then I would request you all to give a thought on ammonia as well. You can always have ammonia in between. And to sum it up, when the first fire was started, people never knew, It's in Hindi, and for the other people it says, "Mat kar bhai, carbon emission hoga," which actually translates into English that stop, don't start the fire, it will lead to a carbon emission. It was way back in history, and at that point of time, probably these guys had never thought that, like carbon would be such a menace. And look at it, today probably in India we are having at least 3 to 4 seminars where we talk about, let's stop this carbon menace. So probably that is how it is. Oh, most of the time in India we find that the world adapts to our energy. World gives out rules. To sum it up, like there are few regulations which are with EN 1373, EN 1374, which is for the transportation of LNG into bulk mode through hoses or things like that. Our PNGRB is still looking into it, probably to adopt it. Probably it will take a year or so. I don't know, probably, like how they evaluate and then how much time it will take. But this is what my wild guess is, like it will take some time. In my opinion, the time has come when India adopts a thing and the world looks up at it. Thank you, gentlemen. I would actually request you guys to give a great thought on it, that we develop a technology and the world follows. These are our contact details. We are the guys. In any case you want to get in touch with us, do get in touch with us, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Captain Sinha, for this informative presentation on ammonia as green fuel. I request you to stay on stage for a while. And may I now request Dr. S.C. Sharma, former officer on special duty, Niti Aayog, Government of India, to kindly join us on stage to felicitate Captain Sinha on this wonderful presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, may I request you to put your hands together for Captain Sinha for this wonderful presentation on ammonia as a green fuel.